English translation, 553rd Contact Wednesday, the 20th of February 2013, 23:02 hours.
There you are. Greetings, dear friend. I was still sitting in the kitchen and answered forum questions with Christian.
I saw that. Greetings also, Edward.
Before we start, I would like to bring up something that is going to cause a bit of a stir. That is also the reason why I would like to record this conversation on the computer right away, if you do not mind. May I turn it on?
Of course, if it is that important.
It is, yes, so that is done. The beginning, the very thing we have just spoken about, I call it off and put it before the following. Then you see here, these pages that Hans Georg gave me this evening. They refer again to what I told you yesterday after the telephone conversation with him, that he found something on the internet regarding your explanations you gave about blood pressure, etc. Here now, look, there he has color-coded everything he found and what you also said. The statements are not literally the same, but they do have some similarities. According to Hans Georg, Bernadette found what he was talking about on the internet, but we found that there are some big differences. Now he brings these pages and says that it might happen that if someone finds the same things on the internet, they will claim that I have copied everything. And this even though you said that these things were known on Earth?
I do not understand that because I really explained that what I said is known by Earth humans. So it should also be understandable that I named the facts accordingly.
Please, you should speak more slowly if I write everything down, because I cannot write everything down as fast as you speak. It is not the same for me as when I call up the conversation reports. But it would obviously be important now to explain how it is that there are these similarities or equivalences between what you said and what these pages say from the internet.
I already explained this during our conversation on the 4th of January, but also last night when you asked me about it again. These statements are largely the facts known to Earth humans.
Yes, I understand that. But it is obviously not understandable to Hans Georg, and perhaps not to other human beings either.
As you say, then I will explain it in more detail, although I do not understand that the logic is not understood in what I have explained. To satisfy the point, the following is to be said. As a medical doctor, I am also extensively interested in the earthly medical facts, so I am gathering all the information I can get. The internet is the biggest help for me, and I have also found the facts I mentioned to you on the internet. Of course, I did not recite them verbatim in their entirety, but simply reproduced them from my memory just as I remembered them and will continue to remember them. This is also what I said when I declared that these facts were known to Earth humans. So I have reproduced everything in free choice of words from my memory, what I have gained as information from Earth humans' knowledge from the internet. So it was not concealed that this information corresponds to Earth humans' knowledge. And since the facts mentioned are also correct according to our findings and knowledge, I was able to state them with a clear conscience.
Well, that should be enough for now. That should be enough for now. Because with this I can already pass on the most important information to Hans Georg, since I promised him to inform him before midnight about what you have to say in more detail about the matter. So I ask you for a little patience. It will not take long, because I will only read to him what we have just spoken together. What we continue to talk about together, I then recall so I do not type it in during the conversation anymore, because this way is very complicated and unfamiliar for me.
Well, but when you have talked to Hans Georg, then I want to say something about the whole thing.
Of course, then I will call Hans Georg.
Called Hans Georg by phone and read him what Billy have already written into the computer from the conversation. Billy interrupted twice by Pata due to a spelling mistake, and because Billy also supposed to greet Hans Georg from him.
Hans Georg's incomprehension of my statement is regrettable and incomprehensible to me because I have made it very clear that the facts I have mentioned are known to Earth humans. That a sophistry is made of this that later readers, well, it is simply incomprehensible to me, for logic interprets my words quite clearly. Nevertheless, please let me see if you made a mistake when writing down the report of the conversation.
The Earthlings are not used to the idioms and their meanings as you use them.
But you have also understood it.
Yes, but I am familiar with your logic. That is the difference. But look here in the computer. Here is the report from the 4th of January. Have you not gone through it yet?
No, I have not yet. But I just want to check my statement, which I made in relation to the reproduction of what Hans Georg is referring to. Twice I have pointed out that the statement is known to Earth humans, to which I also said that I am also reproducing some of it. Yes, look here, this is one place and this is the other. But I see that you have explicitly left out one sentence here. Here on page 3890 you are missing, and also freely reproduce the following earthly knowledge. And, one moment, yes, here on page 3891 you are missing the phrase, for which I will recite again. But this should still be of no consequence, because I have clearly pointed out, as it is also mentioned here in the report of the conversation, and it must be said that the prescriptions I will mention are listed in earthly naturopathy. But here you left out the listed and wrote an also too many. Wait a minute. I see further, yes. Here you have an also that does not belong, and here, as I said, you have left out a known, because I said, are known in earthly naturopathy.
That's all right. Of all places, it has to happen here. Damn it.
You should not get upset about this because mistakes cannot be avoided, as you yourself teach again and again. And what you teach also applies to yourself. I must also say that it is surprising that you no longer make mistakes or omit sentences when you call up the reports of conversations and write them down. The enormous speed at which you do this is astonishing and probably hard to beat. And if there are only a few mistakes and word or phrase omissions, then it is absolutely understandable and cannot be reprimanded.
But still annoying for me, even if you are right.
I understand that, but it is hardly possible to change it. What I still want to say about the matter is that I have a very good memory, and therefore I can also reproduce what I have read or heard in its arrangement and meaning very well. Although it is not my habit to reproduce verbatim large readings or extensive oral statements, I have no problems with the meaning or the order of these, although I may admit to a few mistakes in this respect.
That is also not to be reproached.
But it should be made clear. But now, dear friend, we should turn our attention to the work at hand, because it also has to be done.
Of course.